Now we're going to do the colour accuracy part, which means once we've sort of blocked it in, now we can adjust and regulate the colour by blending new colours on top of the old wet paint. So there's a lot of white in there, so in certain sections it'll need more yellow, and other sections it'll be highlighted by a little bit of white. So that's the sort of thing that we're going to be doing. Say if you have this one and you want to highlight some white, so you just mix a bit of white with the yellow, so it's got a little bit of yellow in it, and you simply place on top the white into it and blend it into it. So it's not everywhere. So then you've got to check the photo. See, so I'm doing that part now, and so that's here, and there's a lot of white there. So we put a fair bit of white on it, and then sort of put it in like that, and like that. And then up here it goes into a bit of yellow, so then we put a bit of yellow with it. So whatever it requires, just put it in there. So if it needs more yellow, put more yellow. If it needs more white. One thing with white is it's very strong, and so if you have too much white on it, you might have to wipe it off. Say if I've got say an area like this, and there's too much white pigment on it, and I need more colour in there, I simply wipe off the white, and then with a bit of yellow and a bit of blue, because it's almost a bit green, I can reapply that colour into it and wipe it in. See, that way I'll get one shade darker than it was before. See, so there's a bit of dark shade under there, so I'll get a bit of blue and a bit of ochre, and I simply put that on there. See, so it's a tad darker than that one. And so with these different tones of colour, see, they're different tones and different colour as well. So you can then, and this is what creates the light and shade in your work. So if that's too light still, so that has a bit of dark blue in it, so I just put a bit of dark blue on the brush and rub that into it. Now if something's too blue and you want it a little bit not so blue, then you can kill the blue with a little bit of red. It'll then go a little bit purple. Hang on. But that might be just enough to kill that blue off, see? And don't be scared of rubbing things and blending colours into. See, so there was a bit of yellow on that, and that'll create that edge there. There's a light ridge there of yellow, so I can go straight back with this dirty brush back into yellow and white and simply apply that. If it's too much white, then go back and put more yellow on, and the yellow will then blend into the ochre and create that light edge. See? So that's sort of what you have to do, and then there's some of those touches in there as well. See, so in this area there's more yellow, so I can just whack that yellow straight onto the blue, which will turn into a bit greenish. If that's too green, then put a little bit of orange with it and put the orange back into it. See, so hang on. So this is all what I call colour adjusting, to get the colours to sort of be accurate. Now up here there's a bit of yellowy tinge in there, but not anything as dark as that. So what I do is I wipe my brush on a rag here, just wipe it, and then reiterate it with some yellow and white. And then simply rub that yellowy white back into here on top of the white. See, so that way you blend some of that into it. There's a column here with a darker edge of yellow, and that goes into over here with white. So I've got my pure white brush, which I then apply onto here. It's quite thick, but I quite like that a bit thicker. So, and then it goes around like that. Sometimes you can decide to leave bits of impasto. If it's too thick, I tend to sort of get it. Also, the brush strokes here curl around because it's a sort of a cylinder. I can alter the shape of the brush strokes, make it go down like that. So that way, and then blend that into it. There's a darker part in this area here. Again, if there's too much white in there, I wipe it off with a bit of a rag. And then with the medium yellow brush, I wax some of that yellow in there. If that's too yellow, which it is, to kill the yellow, I put a bit of I've had a bit of black on this brush, and I'll just rub a tiny touch of black into it and rub that into the yellow. See, and that'll kill off the brightness of the yellow bit because it's too bright. Now that goes into there. So don't be scared of blending colours and putting colours on top of colours and adding more and more colour. That's a bit yellow. I can sponge that onto. I call this sponging, when you just want to add colour, sort of semi-blend, semi-sponge into it. Now this part here, that's a bit of blue goes in there. So I got a little bit of a blue on this brush here, so I might as well use that. And so I just put that on top of it. It's a little bit lighter than that, so I'll put more white with it, with the brush. So it's about that colour, and that sort of blends into the yellow. See, so you can put opposite colours together or fuse them, run the blue into the yellow. And if you want to create a bit of excitement in your palette, just employ some opposites. So orange and blue, green and orange, opposites. So opposite on the colour wheel. And they'll create a bit of excitement in the colour. What are we up to? Up to here we can put a blue edge onto the yellow. So that's what I mean if you want a bit of excitement. See, so with the blue going into the orange, into the light orange, it gives it a bit of zest. It's like spices. It's like putting spices on your, see the bluish tinge in there? It's like putting spices on your food to make them a little bit more palatable. So now with your black brush, I'll chisel in some edges, some contours. Here it goes more up. And use the brush for the accidents that it creates. Once you've got the basic sort of shapes, you don't have to go in, you don't have to copy everything exactly, but as long as you get the colours happening correctly. So. that part's quite dark brown and I've got it too light. So to create that depth in there, I'll just wipe that part here, wipe it clean. And then with my dark brown brush, get some dark brown on there. I'll put a bit of black first to make it dark, and then brown and black. And then I'll simply put that in there and then wipe it in. And then that goes into a point like that. And then I get my medium yellow and just shape it a bit. Put a bit more yellow onto it. When you want a dark colour and a light colour, you want them to marry up more, then put an intense colour with it. So I call that border colours. So whenever something's transitioning from one colour to another colour, or from dark to light, you need extra bright colour because on the contour of it. See how that then creates that a bit more glow? It starts to create a bit of a glow effect. So that's what because you don't want the colour to be dead. You want it to sort of sing and be lively. So that's what you can do at the edge. When this goes into the dark here, I put bright colour onto it like that. Yeah. And then blend it in. So there. Now you can put some of the other darks. So now what's happening there? There's quite a bit of dark up here, so I can use my dark brush in there and then run with my medium brush back over and into it and then blend it into. And if that's a little bit too black, so then I'll rub this browny, bluey browny colour back into it and adjust it till it's the right value. Yeah, so I find it's gone a bit powdery, so I put a bit of brown with it. And so you just put a bit of brown into it, and that way you can get the right colour. Now there's another thing coming in here, so you can use the brown that I had on the brush into theirs. Again, transitioning from this colour to that colour, I put yellow and a bit of ochre, and I just flick it on the edge there and rub that into both of them, and it will make the colour sort of glow into it. Notice I'm not putting much detail in yet. I'm just sort of adjusting colours in specific areas. Up here it's a little bit darker, so again I can use a dark brush and just lightly rub that into it, and with your finger just rub that and create that little bit of extra dark there. Yes. All right, so we'll leave it for now, and then we'll come back later on and put more detail into the picture. Not in there.